Well, hey, Angel fans, welcome back to Halo Territory. I am Mike DiGiovanna, former LA Times baseball writer and host of the show. Joined today by Mark Trumbo, our co-host and former Angels slugger, and welcome back Sam Blum of The Athletic. How you guys doing today?
I'm good. Thanks, Deej. How are you?
Doing fine, doing
In
fine.
AZ.
How's everybody's hamate bones doing today? Everybody okay? Hamate check?
So far so good. I might head out and take a few swings just to see if I can join the club or not. But what a freak injury! Three superstars already down with the odd injury at this time of the year.
And that's
Usually
an
see them.
exclusive.
If I say I have a broken hamate, do you think I can miss the next 6 weeks? I don't know.
Good luck with that, Sam. It's a pretty exclusive club, Mark, too. We're talking about Francisco Lindor, Corbin Carroll, Jackson Holiday, all down with hamate injuries. Mark, you ever injure a hamate during your playing days? How tough an injury is that?
Fortunately, no, I never had a hamate injury, but I know plenty that have experienced it. It's one of those things that sneaks up on you. I think it's not something that really progresses. I think it's just kind of usually on a check swing or
Mhm.
something kind of out of the ordinary. And next thing you know, the guy's basically, in a great deal of pain. And it's usually pretty easy to identify what's going on too. So,
Yeah.
for under normal circumstances, the recovery is fairly straightforward. 6 to 8 weeks, maybe six if you're lucky, maybe a little longer if you're not.
Hmm.
But no, I'm okay here so far.
Or
Sam,
3 months if you're an Angel superstar center fielder. So
true. Mike Trout did have a little trouble with that injury a few years ago. So Sam's
yeah,
joining us from Arizona out at spring training. Pitchers and catchers reported this week. Sam, I understand Perry Manazian spoke with reporters on Wednesday. What can you tell us about that? Anything enlightening?
well, there weren't any like patented back and forths as we have grown accustomed to. But I mean, listen, I think anytime he talks, I kind of start to assume that we won't get much information, and pretty similar today. Really nothing. I think one of the things that I find interesting about what came out of today is Robert Stephenson said he was dealing with thoracic outlet syndrome type symptoms, although he's not really explored having that surgery, which would probably sideline him. I don't know. I think maybe the whole season, if that were to be an issue, but to me, it's like this guy has barely pitched in 2 years. It's hard to know exactly if some of the other lingering injuries that he's had are contributors to or connected to the thoracic outlet symptoms. I mean, so really, I mean, they spent $33 million on Robert Stevenson, and that's a very, very, very expensive reliever arm. And you only really invest that type of money, and if you hope that and you would anticipate that reliever is going to be a kind of a stalwart for you guys. So I mean, this could end up being a pretty disastrous contract. Now they have a clause that would enable them to get a fourth year at a very cheap price because he's had some elbow injuries, but or shoulder injuries. But it's still, I just this is turning into a pretty disastrous deal for the team. And I know he's upset about it. I think everyone's upset about it, but it doesn't really negate that fact. And you also combine that with Ben Joyce, kind of vaguely, he's throwing, so I think Joyce is in a better spot, but it's just we don't really know with him. I mean, he's not stayed on the field his whole career. Same thing with guys like Alek Manoah, Grayson Rodriguez. There's a lot of guys that kind of have to show that they can be healthy even just through spring training, and I don't know where that leads this team, but those are really important pitchers to them having even a chance of success this year.
Yeah, I have to say, and I've covered baseball for so long, I'm so conditioned to always expect the worst when it comes to injuries. You start hearing thoracic syndrome, nerve issues, and these are some of the problems that hindered Stevenson in the past. It just doesn't seem like a really good way to start the spring. Mark, what you know of those injuries? These aren't things you pitch through normally, are they?
They're not. Thoracic outlet is something that is not what fans want to hear. It seems to be something that lingers. You have nerve pain, it's usually an impingement on the collarbone area, but it affects the throwing hand. You get numbness tingling, loss of sensation. Some guys have some dead arm type stuff, and it's very strange. I mean, a lot of these injuries, Santander, it looks like he's going to miss the whole year too, unrelated. But coming into camp, maybe this is just the time you do announce some of these things. But with Stevenson, I believe Suzuki may have mentioned he's the favorite to be the closer, tentatively. But if he is a week behind, which I'd say that is conservative or optimistic is what I guess I'm getting at, I don't believe it until I see it, is what in plain English. But that's too bad. I think that this is the year that most, including him, really hoping for big things, go out there and earn the contract. And if you're going to miss more time, it starts to look like the arm is maybe pretty compromised at this point. So how much durability is left for him? Wishing him the best, but sometimes it's one of those things that just you can't get ahead of it.
Yeah. We are
And,
going to talk
I mean, like,
about.
I appreciate him being honest about it, because that's just not the kind of information that we would get offered in any other context. I mean, he gave that up, and so I mean, I wonder sometimes, what everybody in camp's really dealing with, and it seems like these are the kind of things we only learn once it becomes absolutely necessary for someone or the team to express it. But so I mean, what we get out of Perry today, it's just more of a whole lot of nothing. I mean, they're excited. He went through the whole rotation and talked about how excited he is about each arm, and I mean, you could talk yourself into it, I guess, if you want. But I just have this significant skepticism about the quality of this team right now, and their ability to compete at a high level. They just didn't do enough in the spring, and I mean, when you get to Perry discussing it, it's like, okay, one of the things I asked him is like, what, they've DFA'd 4 guys and they kept Anthony Rendon on the roster, right? Like, and I'm sure essentially I think it comes down to some sort of deal that was made with the with Rendon, essentially, like, or with Boris, but it just adds to the whole, like, and he won't say what's happening there, like, why are they DFAing 4 players that they've claimed with that while keeping somebody on the team who's not going to be on the roster this year no matter what circumstance. It's just like kind of adds to the whole chaotic mess this whole thing is. And I mean, there's so many other things. I mean, they don't even know how we're going to watch the games this year. I mean, they don't have a TV network. I mean, when the season starts in 6 weeks, I mean, these are just things that need to get figured out now.
Yeah, we're going to talk about these storylines of spring. We weren't expecting Robert Stephenson to be one so soon. But we're going to take a quick break for a word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back with more Halo Territory.
AJ, you know what I love about HelloFresh? The variety. Every single week, I can choose from over 100 recipes. That's a lot of recipes.
Agreed. You can go and you can narrow it down, Scott, to whatever you want. Family friendly, because I got kids sometimes that need to eat, so you can go family friendly, pescatarian, vegetarian, whatever you want to do. Healthy options, however you want to refine your search on HelloFresh, they will spit out delicious, healthy ingredients that then you get to cook, which I love to cook. I keep saying it. I love to cook. I love to chop up the ingredients and make beautiful dishes.
There's delicious steak and seafood plus 3 times more seafood options at no extra cost. Go to HelloFresh.com/FT10FM to get 10 free meals plus a free Zwilling knife, a $144.99 value on your 3rd box. Offer valid while supplies last. Free meals applied as discount on first box. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. That's FT10FM.
All right, let's get back to some of the storylines of spring training on Halo Territory. Mark, what do you think some of the big storylines are for you coming into camp?
I think it's going to be hearing a little bit more about the communication that Kurt Suzuki has with Mike Trout. It seems like a little bit odd to me, but I'm sure that there's reasons behind it. You wouldn't have a conversation over the winter. You'd want to wait until you have 90 players there and trying to manage all of that to have. And I think however many years ago, Joe Madden had a similar type thing. Could be wrong, but seemed like it was a bit awkward. And eventually I think Mike ended up either he moved or he didn't. But it seemed a little bit, awkward. And so I don't know if that's what's going to happen this year, or it's just going to be simply Kurt dictating, this is what you're going to do. My assumption is that there's not going to be a lot of outfield play. I could be wrong. Mike may, there is a point at times where guys are more productive with the bat when they're playing the field, and he might make that argument. I haven't asked him. I don't think it'd be appropriate to, but it could be a thing. I know that at times my numbers were far better playing the field, even though, the opinions were mixed at best on how that rated. But I could have asked Keith what his thoughts were, but I'm pretty sure I know. So I'd like to see that. If it's not Trout playing center, who is it going to be? Adele is listed again. And we saw last year, in my opinion, he was a much better right fielder than center. Josh Lowe doesn't seem like a great fit there. We got Teodosio and Jose Siri. So that is center field is a somewhat of an open competition. I know Kurt emphasized guys are going to have to earn it. Seem to be referencing maybe Christian Moore as well. I know on maybe the last show or whatever, I said, what stat, or was the question and answer, what stat line is going to get him a job? And I said, staying healthy, essentially. I don't know, 220, 250. But maybe there's a thought that he needs more seasoning. I don't think that's the case. He does seem like the best option over some of the other guys. Some of the bench players, too, pretty light with the bat. And I don't know. Meckler is a guy that hasn't been covered much, but his on-base capabilities in the minor leagues are hard to ignore. He may not be viewed as a big piece, but maybe a stretch. I don't know. I see a little Stephen Kwan when I see him, and may not be the worst thing for a team that strikes out a lot.
That's what I'm curious about is like, what's going to be the approach of this team? Because this, and especially you bring up a guy like Christian Moore, who just was, I know he's got that talent in him, but I think what you saw last season was a poor approach to someone that was, swinging for the fences. And it was really like, you don't want a 3 true outcomes starting second baseman under any circumstances, probably, but especially not one who's like, he just took the number 8 pick a year ago. So, his game was so limited to home runs, strikeouts, and he walked a little bit too. So that was, it just wasn't that wasn't good enough where he was last year. I think to be an everyday, starting infielder in the major leagues, I think he'd probably agree with that. But there's some interesting competitions, and I mean, I agree with you. Like maybe Wade Meckler's interesting, but I also am kind of the belief of like, we're talking about some just not great options, and there's no disrespect to these players. It's just like, you want some guys who got some, proven abilities out there, and even if that's what your options are in center field, then you're putting yourself behind the 8 ball with Jorge Soler. I mean, this is a guy you're paying a lot of money to, and if Joe Adell's not starting in center field, then essentially what that means is one of Mike Trout or Jorge Soler has to play right field, or has to play the field. I mean, I don't know. Like Jorge Soler playing the field regularly seems like something that might have to happen, and ultimately that's a very bad thing for him and for the team. And just that the competitions are interesting, but it's also, I'm not sure what the best case scenario in any of those competitions kind of leads you to.
I think center field is going to be a huge storyline this spring. I'm going to piggyback on what Mark was saying. I've known Mike Trout since he was a 19-year-old in his first spring training with that Mickey Mantle crew cut. And he doesn't like DHing. And most guys who play the field don't like DHing. And I think he's more comfortable when he's playing the field. Now, health-wise, to me, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, if Mike Trout is healthy enough to maybe play 50% of his games on defense, where are you going to put him? I think you're better off with him in center field and Joe Adell in right field. Listen, Joe Adell was a Gold Glove finalist in right field. What's 2024, right, Sim? And Mike Trout is a natural center fielder. So why would you put Adell in center, a position where he was ranked the worst defensively by Fangraphs last year among center fielders with 800 innings or more, and take him away from a position that he's good at. It's like the Hippocratic Oath approach: do the least amount of harm. You know, Mike Trout wasn't good enough in right to me to warrant starting in right field over Joe Adell. So, you know, if Josh Lowe doesn't work out in center, I just put Mike back in center. I just think he's due for a healthy year. Maybe I'm really being optimistic here.
That is a optimistic approach.
I
there.
know,
Usually
but
it goes the other way when you turn
I'm hoping for the
mid-30s.
guy. I'm not ashamed to admit I'm hoping Mike turns it around. But if he's healthy enough to play defense, I would put him in center. That way you move Adele to right. You keep Soler on the bench where he belongs. Josh Lowe, maybe not the best left fielder in the game, but you know, he's a corner guy. He can adjust. To me, it's not going to be an outfield filled with gold gloves, but it's probably the least worst defensive outfield that you can put out there.
Yeah, I mean,
I
agree with you.
Go ahead, Mark.
No, I just, as far as the difficulty, I think there's this thought that center field is far more demanding, and it can be based on who's around you. I know years ago, I think Torrey Hunter was having to cover a lot of range. This is many years ago, but Peter Borges came up at that point because I believe Juan Abreu was on one side and maybe, Juan Rivera on one side, Bobby Abreu on the other. And that left Torrey with 3/4 of the outfield at times to try and cover. So I think in this case, you have Adele who can, he's not the fastest, but he can cover a lot of ground, especially if he's playing the gaps, and Lowe can do the same. And it's just a matter of workload for Trout. Half the games, it sounds great, but that's kind of choppy. You know, the lineup's going to be changing a fair amount, and then, you know, who is going to play behind him. The options are, maybe excellent defense, Teodosio, very light with the bat. But, I don't know, maybe he made some adjustments. Series strikes out a ton, but excellent defense and fast runner. So you got to get on base to use that speed. I believe if we kind of jump into that, some Fangraphs has Soler started in left field. So at least in the projections. And there's some of these questions are going to need to be answered. I assume the Angels have a plan already. They haven't shared it, but I wouldn't want to be caught just guessing at this point if I were them.
Yeah.
I'm not as confident in their pre-planning. I mean, it just the way it goes. I mean, listen. They always say, like you alluded to Joe Maddon's kind of his issue 2022 spring when he kind of announced that Trout might be moving off of center before ever talking to Mike. And so now basically it's become an annual tradition of, well, we'll get our Mike Trout questions answered when Mike Trout arrives at camp. Like they won't say anything about him until he's there, until they talk to him. It's, I don't know how much Kurt did or did not talk to Mike over the offseason. I don't want to read into it too much. There aren't too many position players camp to begin the spring. I don't know if that's a thing or not, if that matters or not, or if it's worth reading into. I mean, there's a couple I saw, like Christian Moore, if he's here early. I mean, there's certainly some guys, but like Nelson Rada and some of maybe the non-roster guys, but some of the big guys haven't showed up yet. So I'll be curious when they get here, kind of, what's been the level of communication? Where do things stand with all these guys? I mean, I don't know. I look at the team last year. They won 72 games, but I think in a lot of ways they were probably better than their record. I mean, they won a ton of one-run games relative to their actual record. And they stayed healthy in the pitching side for the most part until the very end of the season. So, and right now their depth is worse. I mean, their bullpen is worse. Their rotation is worse. Their lineup is worse. I mean, so we're getting to a point where it's like, we can talk about all these competitions. You can talk about all the, the ins and outs of where players might be, but does it really matter if you're probably looking at a team that might lose 100 games? I mean, I think that's kind of where things are with the way the fan base looks at this team. Certainly how I look at them. It's just like at this point, get a collection of 26 guys, throw them out there and prove to us that they're even worth really assessing on this level. Yeah. Because, like today, asked Kurt Suzuki, well, how do you measure success? Right? Ask him, how do you measure success, and how much are wins and losses going to play a role in that measurement? And his answer kind of multiple times was, well, wins and losses are kind of out of your control. And I think on a certain level, that's true, right? Like there are certain games where you might be just a better team and you will still lose. And there might be certain games where you are the worst team and you will win. Obviously, that's how that works. But I think that over the course of 162, you are probably going to be about as good or close to as good or around as good as you should be. And I just think it's very naive and kind of evasive to say that wins and losses are out of your control. The whole point of playing, if they're out of your control, then why are you playing the games? I just kind of roll my eyes at the comment, and I don't think it's the right answer. And after 11 years of losing, to kind of dismiss the value of wins and losses. I mean, this is a fan base that wants wins, right? They deserve wins. I mean, really, last time Mark Trumbo took the field, the last time they were winning any games, it's for the Angels, that is. So this has just been way too long, and I think it just was the wrong message to send to your fans that the wins and losses aren't part of what you can control, because that's why you're here. That's why you're spending 6 weeks in spring. That's why you're signing guys. That's why you're paying guys. You want to make it within your control, so it is in your control.
Mark, what was your reaction to that quote as a former player, especially?
Well, I think it's what you say when you know that there might be some growing pains. My honest answer is I think he is getting at is focused on the process, which is under your control. It's something that you hear a lot. It is true. If you focus on the results and chasing the results, let's say as a hitter, you want to hit 330, and you're just getting completely obsessed with the results and cutting out the process part of it. It can be a very uphill battle. Some guys are far motivated. Let's take Albert, for example. He was always acutely aware of where his statistics were. His runs scored were a big deal. At times, he would try and take the extra base. You may recall, sometimes out by a ways, but it mattered. And I'm not trying to say because he's a Hall of Famer and was excellent teammate to me, but sometimes guys are motivated by that. But for a younger team, I think Kurt's saying to block out the noise. It's all I know is my experience, and I've had some debates with guys that are currently not managing, but bench coaches throughout the game. And we've just gotten into these arguments about me saying the big leagues is about winning, and I've been told that I'm wrong. It's about the process. And I said, what in the world are you talking about? Like, I can understand the process of the minor leagues, but the big leagues, we're here to win. That was always what I was told. That was always the goal. I mean, the minor leagues are where you flesh the stuff out. There is a process there. If you need to improve certain things, your on base percentage, your stolen bases, your technique in the field, that is what a process looks like. In the big leagues, this is playing for keeps. This is big dollars, big money. We're trying to win. I don't know if that message is stale or it is out of fashion. I don't think it is. That's what I would say. Maybe not just, over and over again, but that is the intent. We're here to win baseball games. I think the fans are interested in them winning baseball games. But maybe we can get to it too. I think the PECOTA projections came out. Do you have those in front of you by any chance,
I believe
Mike?
it was 65 wins this year. And I always laugh because back in the day, Mike Scioscia the PECOTA preseason prediction would always undersell the Angels, and they would always surpass their PECOTA. And Scioscia was always sure to let us know how many games they passed PECOTA predictions. But 65 wins, if you do the math, I believe that comes out to 97 losses. I don't know. I think they're going to do a little better than that. Once again, I'm being optimistic. Maybe I just feel like they're due for a little, some kind of karma or better luck. Not that they deserve it, but 65 and 97. Wow, that is a brutal season. What do you think, Sam?
I mean, and I hear what you're saying about Zook's comments, and I do think that is what he was intending to say, about process, and that's like the right way to look at it at times, right? You want to be process oriented. That will lead to, I guess my feeling is if you're process oriented, then you are acknowledging that these wins and losses are in your control. This isn't a passive game of like, oh, we'll see what happens. It's, you got to go and play the game and take the wins. I mean, this is the big leagues. I totally agree with. I don't know who the bench coaches are that are talking, in my opinion, sideways about this topic, but this is for keeps. They should be going out and doing everything they can to win, especially when it comes to a team that just hasn't. And you asked about Pacoda, like. I think that's. I don't agree with your optimistic outlook on this. I don't. I think that 65 may be right around, if not better than what I kind of see it as. I mean, but again, I'm perfectly willing and hope to be wrong about it. I think it would be nice to be wrong about it. It'd be nice for someone to be able to gloat about outdoing projections. I just don't know how you can sit there and expect it when all you've signed this offseason are reclamation projects while allowing, some proven players like, Kenley Jansen, Taylor Ward to kind of walk out the door. I mean, 100 runs driven in. Now, I think that Taylor Ward also contributed to some of the offensive issues when it came to strikeouts and approach and things like that. But, he also was productive and he had some really, really big hits for that team last year. And so I don't know. I would probably take the under on the 65, but I also think that there's a lot that they can control, and they should there's a lot that they can do to outdo those projections if they're really following if they're practicing what they're preaching and actually doing the process correctly, because I have a lot of issues with the process over the years as well. Don't think they've done a good job with that.
Mark, you got the over under on 65.
It's probably, I think that they might do a little bit better. I think they might also be capable of doing worse. It really is what Sam was saying. And when you look at it, the depth is thin. Like former teammate Trey Mancini would probably be the natural choice. Let's say Shanawalt unfortunately had to miss some time. You have that at catcher. We look very thin. At third base, very thin. You start to go around and, I guess Darno would, and he's probably going to do better than he did last year. His statistics were poor. It didn't seem like he ever really got it going. He is getting older, so I think. And O'Hoppe is somebody that I've wanted to touch on because he is a big part of this deal. And, per social media, he was, a lot of guys go there. Driveline the other day practicing what looked like a very violent swing. They don't always have full attire on either there, it seems like. But chasing the exit velocity. And I have thoughts on that. And I don't always agree. It's not how I have seen the best hitters go about their business. I know it's trendy. But he's a big, strong guy. I guess searching for an extra couple miles an hour, but it very similar to pitchers, that are chasing just a little bit more. You wonder where these oblique injuries comes from in the game, and you take enough swings with that kind of violence, the body is just, you can't do it. I know hitting in the home run derby, I did it twice for those that care, and it was one of the most tiring things I've ever done. It took 2 weeks to recover. I probably at times have regretted doing the second one, especially. That was one where I felt the oblique was maybe about to give, and I kind of shut it down at the end. If you were watching closely, which I don't know if the home run derby is a little bit long in the tooth, in my opinion, but and there was no financial incentive then too. Maybe a truck or something, but anyway, I didn't win. Maybe sour grapes. However, the way these guys are training with the bat, I'd like to see the ability to use the whole field, and I don't see any of that when I watched the reps that I was seeing the other day. Happily be proven wrong. I hope he has a great season, but that bat path I saw, big red flag in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, with O'Hoppe, I mean, it's the power and the exit velo. I mean, I hope that's not the way he's looking at this, because he really didn't he hit like 5 home runs after middle of May last year, but I don't think it was because he lacked power. I think it was pitch selection, and he wasn't able to hit a slider. I mean, it was, he was just kind of just swinging on a lot of pitches out of the zone. I think that's where his issue is. So I haven't really gotten a chance to catch up with him too much outside of, a quick hello. So I'd be curious to kind of get a sense of what he focused on this offseason. But because, I mean, he's like you said, to me, he's such a wild card for them. I mean, the potential to be, an all-star caliber major league catcher, I think, is in there, but he's so far away from it right now. And, I think mentally at times he's just been so lost that, you stop thinking about mechanics, I think, and you stop thinking about some of the, more granular things that maybe he's working on at a drive line, and you start to just be like, just be able to process disappointment better, be able to, regroup and, make an effort to really, to connect with your teammates. And I think these are the things that will really help him be a more successful player at the big league level, less so, getting the extra velos on the swing. Because, it might be helpful. Maybe we'll get him a couple more homers, but I don't really think that was his issue. And I'm not sure I'm not saying I disagree with the way he approached it, because I don't know everything he's done, but I think that's where he needs to improve most.
Yeah, Logan O'Hoppe is a youngster with a lot on his plate this spring, in addition to all these offensive issues we're talking about. He was ranked the worst defensive catcher in baseball by Fangraphs last year. Minus 10 defensive runs saved, minus 9.4 framing. I mean, these are all, I'm guessing Mike Scioscia would not tolerate that kind of defense from his catcher. He's got a lot on his plate. So it's going to be, to me, that's another big storyline of this spring and going into the season. He's got to improve offensively, and he definitely has to improve defensively. Well, let's close the show by talking a little bit about their rotation. We know they have 3 locks in the rotation: Kikuchi, Soriano, Detmers. I personally think Grayson Rodriguez and Alek Manoah have the inside line on those last 2 spots. But there's still some pretty good pitchers out there. Zach Gallen, Zach Littell as of Wednesday. Any inclination, Sam? Did this come up with Perry Manassian at all today? Is there any thought that they might at least be able to add some pitching depth? There are guys out there who could at least, when these guys invariably go down with injuries, could help.
I think depth is not out of the question in terms of adding, but I don't think you're going to see a Gallen or anybody super. I'd be shocked at this point for a lot of reasons, but I don't think that's happening. Now, you never say never with the Angels, but from my understanding, I don't think Gallen's really on the table. I don't really think some of those higher end free agents that are out there are really going to be on the table. I mean, I find it interesting. I mean, look, the Rockies went out and got Jose Quintana the other day. I know the Angels have already tried that once before. It didn't work very well in 2021, but I kind of think those are the types of things, like, if you're the Angels and you're like at least trying to acknowledge, trying to, telegraph a sense of contention. I think getting a player like Quintana or even Michael Lorenzen, who the Rockies also signed, like those are, also the player who the Angels have tried to find success with in the past. So, I think that's where I didn't really fully understand their offseason. I understand why they tried to payroll, tried to, limit things, but would it have been crazy to go out and sign a mediocre starting pitcher for $8 million who can just, eat some innings? It seems a little bit surprising to me that wasn't the route they really went. Instead, they went really cheap with a $2 million reclamation project in Alek Manoah, who, obviously has probably more upside than any of those pitchers from what we've seen in the past, but also is about 4 years removed from being even a viable starting pitcher at the big league level. So you're really risking him not even being an option for you, depending on kind of where he's at and how he performs. And then, beyond them, you mentioned some other good arms, but I'm skeptical of guys like Dana and Aldegari and Klassen, like these guys being really ready to go and just kind of take that next step. They haven't shown it yet. Maybe they will this year. Kohanowitz kind of in that camp too. Obviously struggled so much last season. He's not really even in that conversation right now for the rotation, at least as far as, kind of has been talked about publicly. So, there are guys, there are names, there are people on their 40-man who could start for them. I wonder about the depth, and I wonder beyond even really we add Detmers as a kind of a sure thing, but he hasn't started games since 2024, and when he did, he wasn't very good at it. So, it's no insult to him. He just really struggled at that role, and has to prove that he can kind of do it consistently, because he's shown flashes of brilliance, but it's been very, 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 very inconsistent.
He did throw a no-hitter. Angel fans
we're 4 years past that now, though.
Yeah,
it's
I
just,
know.
Perry brought it up too, and I was like, I think it's been a while. It's just this guy's development has kind of been all over the place, and I wonder how he was good in the bullpen for quite a while last year, but it really wasn't.
Mark, how do you size up the rotation at this point? What would you like to see out of this group?
I think that despite the comments about going to have to earn the spots, I think the spots are more or less solidified. Kohanowitz, pronounce that. I think that one
Yeah, that was
I
pretty
want
good.
to get right. I botched a young man's name on the Keith Law episode. I won't try and have that happen again. A little bit obscure name, but I think he has a lot more promise. I did see some videos this winter, and it's the highlight clip, so take it with a grain of salt. But he abandoned, to me, his bread and butter last year, which was a power sinker. I saw a lot of flat four seamers. I don't know what that was about. He really maybe was trying to lean into the velocity craze, but he doesn't have a fastball that really is effective in that regard. He doesn't throw it by guys, so he is a ground ball pitcher. To me, I don't care if he's throwing 93, but if he's chasing 98, 99 and it's flat, it's going to get whacked. I mean, that's just the reality. I know Ohtani, even his fastball, basically, if it's not in the upper 90s or above, it gets whacked. It's the they have the data to prove it, and that's why he has to resort to throwing as hard as he does. It's not a knock. His off speed is excellent, but he can't get away with doing that. Now he doesn't have that sinker ball that Kohanowitz does. Caden Dana is a long ways off, in my opinion. He, in particular, I believe at one point last year, they accentuated his release point was 7 inches or so different on his breaking ball. And for a big league hitter, that is child's play. You will see that from a mile away. If I'm slightly off, I'll correct it later on. It was a big deal. It's so obvious to a seasoned hitter, it's not even funny. So you can make that adjustment very quickly. If it's a hanger, it's going to get banged. Otherwise, he'll just spit on it as a ball. Aldeguerri, long inning guy to me. Not sure maybe he would be a candidate that would benefit from gaining some velocity. But Manoah looks like his fitness looked pretty good. I think that's a big deal. Everyone's very interested in that. He looks trimmer than before, so that's good. And I think Grayson Rodriguez is a lock. His stuff is way too good if healthy to not challenge for even better than the 4th spot. And I believe Detmers lost his arbitration. Maybe, Sam, you can clarify.
Yeah, I believe so. That was what I read, at least. And I agree with you on Kohanowitz, actually. Like, if he's, he'll have every opportunity to get back in this thing. I mean, there's a reason they let him kind of go out there as much as he did last year. And I think it was because it's like, we've seen it. Like, it's in his 2024 when he was pitching, he was probably their best pitcher for like a stretch of almost 2 months. So it's in there. I just don't know if he's a starter, and I don't know how that translates at the big league level when it comes to, going. I mean, he can pitch very efficiently even when he's struggling. He can allow 11 runs and go 7 innings. I mean, it's because it's pitches to contact largely, even though he had some more walk issues last year. I think he'll have every opportunity, and ultimately, there's going to be opportunities for a lot of these guys. That is, if somebody steps up, if somebody's good, there is an avenue here, but there's just nothing that has been shown so far that makes me really confident that they have a stud big league pitcher in this core right now. Outside of maybe the 2 locks to their rotation and maybe Grayson Rodriguez if he's healthy.
All right, we're going to end on that note. Thanks for joining us today on Halo Territory. Please like and subscribe. Mark, Sam, appreciate all the input as always. We'll see you next time on Halo Territory.